Look, I've got a lot of things to do. I've got a lot of calls to make, and I will be working late again tonight. So please don't start with this well-being and looking after myself. I just don't have the time. If this is how you're feeling, then this video is for you. Whether you are a business leader or not, it is important that you look after yourself. Leading yourself first is the way to leading a happy and high-performing workplace. I love the conversation I had with Céline. Céline Morin, in a very simple ways, really shared with us some tips that we can use throughout the day to discover our creativity, to allow us to create space in our mind and to discover our joie de vivre as well. For anyone out there wondering whether this happiness malarkey is a fad, then watch this video. Céline shared with us a lot of science behind happiness and its impact on productivity and on a happy, high-performing workplace as well. And if you really want to find out whether there is a well-being clubhouse somewhere that can support you on your journey to increasing your well-being and your productivity, then this show is definitely for you. What are we waiting for? Let's go.
Hi, I'm Céline Morin, and I am a well-being consultant who has worked in workplace well-being for over 20 years. And I have a passion to help people own the title CEO, Chief Energy Officer, so that they can mobilize energy no matter how stressed they're feeling, how tired. And I believe this needs to be done in a practical, playful way. So I like to use a lot of my heritage around being French and a sense of joie de vivre. And I really believe in curiosity and celebration, but perhaps we can talk more about that later.
Oh, definitely. I'm Naily Makangu. I'm the Mary Poppins of business transformation. And my passion is about making sure that people are happy at work, especially on a Monday. I work a lot with business leaders, helping them sort out the organization, making sure that projects run on time and that we can develop great products together. But as I've said before, what I really love is about bringing happiness at work and actually talking about happiness. One of the reasons why I connected when I saw Céline online was really about the joie de vivre that she mentioned. Of course, we do share our heritage. We both speak French as well. But one of the things I really wanted to ask Céline and have this conversation is about how do we make sure that our chief energy officer conserve the energy, especially right now with everything that's going on. So Céline, just a question to warm up our audience. What does happiness mean to you and how do you bring that to our organization and people out there?
Such a lovely question, because when we have a strong reason why something is important to us, it's easier to find a how. So why is happiness and joy important for each of us? Because it is unique. The more I do this work, the more I realize we're all different and there's no one answer for everybody, right?
Yeah.
But what we know today is happiness. And by happiness, I think we sometimes think it's about being giggly and laughy and always, that outward show of joy. It's not always that. You can actually be grieving or being very upset or stressed, but still have deep contentment. So for me, it's about that deep inner happiness and joy that we have, no matter what's happening around us or on the outside.
I'm really glad that you've started by defining happiness in this way, as I believe that it's really about being happy in the moment and contentment inside. And a lot of people, especially in the UK, have been locked down for a long time. It was challenging and stressful, but doesn't mean that people completely lost the sense of happiness for it.
Yeah, absolutely. There's this concept that we speak about in emotional resilience called holding polarity. So being able to hold two different things. So for instance, I found January and February also on my own in lockdown very difficult. And I also realized, and that doesn't mean that I've lost my joie de vivre. There's a bigger picture and times will change. And look, here we are at the cusp of a new season and things are changing.
Yeah.
So having that inner happiness is key. And now there's so much science to show that it's so good for us. It's good for our brain health and our overall well-being. So it's important to have these conversations. And happier employees are more productive and engaged.
Oh, definitely. I think that's something that will continue to bang around in on social media, really. I think we underestimate how someone is more likely to go beyond, way more than the pay packets. When they are happy, they feel valued and empowered, they really want to be there for their employees and just enjoy coming to work. It becomes part of you rather than I have to do this, right?
Exactly. And emotions are contagious,
Yeah.
whether they're good or bad. So you rather want to be somebody, I guess, who spreads happiness and joy rather than frustration and anger or rage, you know?
Yeah. And how do you think that happiness affects how behavior at work as well?
I think how it affects us, or how us, if I speak from my own personal perspective, I can have a really tough day with back-to-back meetings and deadlines and pressure, and maybe I haven't slept well, so I'm not feeling my best, or I've had a difficult conflict with, someone I love. And yet, knowing and having resources, so perhaps we can talk about some practical things that you can do.
Yes, definitely.
It's like having tools in your toolbox, like today, oh, I need this tool, I can reach for it. But if it's not there, or if you haven't practiced it, you're not going to use it in those moments. So work, we know, adds many stressful moments to our days, just by nature of working with other people, having deadlines, technology. I mean, I was again this morning on a 3-hour masterclass, and of course the tech didn't always work. But instead of getting frustrated, I was able to use some techniques and stay present and grounded. And we had a lovely session, despite what happened.
And what kind of techniques did you use this morning just to kind of get back, especially when you are with everything going on and you know that, oh my God, people are waiting for me and tech problems?
Yeah. So two things. The first thing is the breath. So I tapped into my breath, because when we're stressed or when we're unhappy, we tend to constrict our bodies and become quite tight, and we don't breathe. And simply taking a deep breath in and exhaling can help so much. I mean, I use breath work a lot for mental well-being, emotional well-being, physical well-being. So I made sure that I didn't contract my breathing. And then I actually stepped away from my desk for 10 seconds.
Yeah.
I stepped away, I came back, and then motion shifts emotion, right? And often we sit for too long. So taking breaks is so important, and moving your body. And then, of course, if you can add another layer to that, like getting fresh air or connecting with somebody or touching a pet or seeing the sunshine, those are small things that we can pepper in our day to make sure that we have, we don't just drain our energy all the time. We actually put back.
Especially right now, there's a lot of people that are working back to back in meetings, back to back in tasks and activities. They are not stepping away from what they're doing, which is adding more stress. And I also love what you said about the emotion shifts. When I talk about falling in love with positive conflict in organization, a lot of people come back to me and say, well, it's really difficult because in the moment I can't think, I'm stressed, I maybe want to cry, I want to scream, and what do I do? And I guess emotion shifts is really another thing that, in addition to the breath work you've mentioned as well, that's something that can do, even if it's for kind of like, guys, let's take, even 10 minutes or 10 minutes, 10 seconds, just to recenter ourselves, just to kind of help you think a little bit more as well.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, there's something that I use regularly called the mindful minute.
Yeah.
So I take 60 seconds, I've got it set on my phone,
Mm.
and I go inward. I like to close my eyes so I'm not distracted by things. And I count how many breaths I'm taking. And the science is showing that we should have single digits breaths. So if you can, take 9 breath cycles or less in a minute. If you're breathing, and a
I'm
lot of
trying it right now, actually.
when I do this exercise with my clients, sometimes they're taking 15, 20, 25 breaths in a minute. And that can often be an indication that you're in that fight or flight state. You're
Yeah.
pulled into the stress response. And a little bit of stress is okay, but most of us have got stress like 14 hours a day. And, with everything that's gone on around the world, there's this huge amount of collective stress that we cannot ignore, And so starting with yourself and managing your own triggers, and the breath is a great place to start, because it works so quickly. When you slow down your breath, for many of us, it can have a good impact. It may not make you instantly feel happy and joy,
Yeah.
but it may reduce that sense of stress, which is what pulls away from our happiness and joy.
Yes. And you're saying that I would say the maximum, but the recommended number of breaths you can take in a minute is about 9 or so.
Well, 6 to 8 breath cycles in a minute.
Okay, 6 to
So
8.
I always tell people, if you're getting to 9 or less, excellent.
Wow.
Excellent. Yeah.
Yeah.
And a breath cycle is 1 inhale and 1 exhale. So
Mm.
is one.
Yeah.
Is two. And we know that because when we're feeling very stressed or uptight or a negative emotion, if you become aware of your breath, you'll notice how it changes.
Yeah.
And it's hard to feel upset and stressed and anxious when you're breathing slowly and deeply.
Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
bit like not just controlling the situation, but recentering back into yourself and just letting all of the negative energy just slowly dissipate out of your body.
Yeah. Yeah. So there can be lots of chaos around you,
Mm.
and you can still feel calm inside. So the stress may not go away. The deadline's still there. The team meeting link won't work. The deliveries come. Your kids are not listening. Somebody spilled coffee over there. The dogs are barking next door. You can't get a vaccine appointment. Whatever it might be, that can all still be happening, and you can feel calm inside.
Yeah,
And
definitely.
calm is a great step towards inner joy and happiness, because it's not easy to always feel it. I don't always feel inner joy and happiness. I assure you that.
Yeah.
But I know that these different techniques work. Like
Yeah.
another one is having a gratitude practice. So there's a lot of
Ah.
science to show
Mm.
from various universities, Dr. Martin Seligman, Sean Acor from Harvard, to show that when we think about things we're grateful for, just for a few minutes every day, the brain starts to rewire to look for things to be grateful for. So you become almost more of an optimist. It's quite exciting. And it just takes a few minutes of reflecting on, what am I happy for? What am I grateful for today?
Especially in the life that we are living at the moment, we're always on the go. For business leaders, there's always a matrix to hit. There's a problem to solve. As soon as you've done something great and amazing, you don't stop. You're already thinking, okay, right, what next? So for people that are like that, especially whether you are driven because you want to achieve something, or you are running away from your task list that never ends, how do you suggest they can, I wouldn't say force themselves, but really bring this idea of gratitude into their crazy busy lives as well?
Such a good question, because a lot of the stuff we know, it's common knowledge, but it's not common practice. And
Big.
things only work when we actually put them into practice. So
Mm.
we've got to find ways to have quick wins. That means make it super easy and simple. So for me, when I wake up in the morning, I've got a notebook, a gratitude journal next to my bed. And I try, and before I do anything else, well, I have a bottle of water next to my bed. So I drink 10 sips of water, because I sometimes forget to drink water and then I get a headache. So I hydrate and I write down what I was grateful for from the day before, unless I've written in my journal before I go to bed at night.
Yeah.
But sometimes I'm just so exhausted, I don't do that. So I find at the end of my day, that those like 10, 15 minutes before you want to go to sleep and the first 10 or 15 minutes of the morning, rather than reaching for your phone and getting pulled into everybody else's agenda and the news and the media, which is likely not going to cause you happiness and joy, find ways that you can bring happiness and joy there.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe it's also a mindfulness practice, or it's 5 minutes of stretching while the kettle's boiling, but do something for you before you engage with the outside world. I always say that's very important in the morning and at night as
Yeah.
well. Yeah.
I agree. I do actually something similar, but I tend to be more reflective at night and just ready to get going in the morning. In the morning, I might not do most of the journaling and stuff like that, but I will definitely not even read my emails until I've done something for me, as you mentioned. But
Yeah.
one thing that I love doing just before going to bed, especially as I have an overactive brain, always thinking, and I also sometimes suffer from insomnia, I will start by doing some kind of stretching just to help my body be sane and I can play tennis again the next day without breaking everything. And yeah, but the other thing I love doing is just similar to what you're saying, is about writing down my thoughts. Sometimes as well, when we talk about happiness, our brain is full of the negative things that happens. So I write down what happened and why I feel this way. It's about connecting with my feelings, which again is not something a lot of people talk about. And I will end with gratitude just so that I have a bit of a smile on my face before I turn the light and go to bed. And I agree as well. I know if anyone listening out there, you might think it's a lot more work. Well, it doesn't need to take an hour, right? It's something that, as you said, Celine, everything is already set next to your bed. You just reach out and start doing it.
And you can even do it while you're doing other things. So I call this meanwhile habits. There are
Oh,
things that you do where you wait, like you brush your teeth, right? Most of us don't think about that. We brush our teeth for maybe 2 minutes twice a day.
yeah.
While you're brushing your teeth, could you think about what you're grateful for?
Yeah.
You know, or while you're brushing your teeth, could you reflect on your day before? So there, it hasn't even taken you an extra 2 minutes because you're standing there and you're not doing anything else.
Yeah.
And while you're boiling the kettle, or while you're waiting for your computer to boot up in the morning, or while you're standing in a queue or waiting for your child to do something, find little places in your day that give you a minute or two. And those are good places to start with creating small shifts in your behavior. We don't want too much because then you set yourself up for failure. You make it too difficult. Like, make it easy and make it fun. Like, feel good. Very important.
Yes.
There's a
I
lot
am.
of behavior science showing
Yeah.
if you feel good about something,
Mhm.
then you're more likely to do that thing again.
Yeah.
Yeah. So instead of saying, oh, I've got to do more exercise, like
Yeah.
I've got to go for a 5 kilometer run, just say, you know what, I'm going to do a 5 minute walk at midday. And you probably will do the walk before you'll do a 5K run. And then you'll feel good about it.
Yeah. And
And
once
you'll
you're
go out
outside, you
more.
might as well, once you start walking, the adrenaline will kicks in and you end up in a run that you didn't even want to do in the first place.
Exactly, exactly. And that happens a lot, right, with these things.
Yeah.
They make us feel good. And then your body starts to crave it. Like when you start breathing deeper and slower, when you start thinking of things you're grateful for, when you listen to your body for hydration and things like that, and getting to bed earlier, your body will tell you what it needs. We
Yeah.
just, sometimes we don't listen until things go really wrong. And then your body
Oh,
screams at you.
I agree, definitely. And I also love what you said about this idea of being a bit more mindfulness and doing those kind of exercises of gratitude when you're brushing your teeth. One of the things that I've noticed a lot is obviously now there's a lot of content out there, podcasts, social media. And when people are on the go, you go from big at work with loads of information and working on your way home and want to maximize the time by listening to podcasts, which is great. But that could also be the opportunity of taking, like you're saying, those 2 minutes as you're waiting for the train or as you're driving, or just to do those kind of work before you jump into the next podcast so that you are primed with positivity before you do something else and start consuming from the outside as well, right?
Naily, that's so important. You know, they're two neuropsychologist experts, David Rock and his partner, who have written something called the Mind Platter.
Mm.
And there's 7 ingredients on the Mind Platter that are essential for healthy brain functioning and cognitive ability.
Yeah.
And one of them is downtime.
Yeah.
And the other one is time in, which means going inward and allowing our own intuition to surface. And downtime is actually not having an agenda, definitely not listening to a podcast or answering emails or engaging with anybody, but actually getting bored or maybe daydreaming. And
Yeah.
that's a very important part of our happiness and our mental well-being. And today, you're right. I mean, especially if we go-getters, which we are, and a lot of the listeners are, we want to fill the time because there's so much out there. We
Yeah.
will never be able to listen and digest everything, and we shouldn't, because it will give us indigestion.
Oh, yes, I love that. Mental and emotional indigestion, that's for sure. I
Yeah.
tell you what, that's something I think it was a couple of weeks ago. I was going crazy with, I was telling you earlier, preparing for my online course. There's always something to do. And I was on my way to play tennis. And I kid you not, I left work, been working all day. I got on the train, and I thought, right, I've got 10 minutes on the train, got my phone out, starting replying to all of the LinkedIn messages and everything. I played tennis. And then it was kind of just an hour window where I didn't do anything, go back on the train, got my phone out, started replying to messages, got home, started watching a podcast. That is indigestion, definitely. Yeah.
Yeah. And if we do that, we keep the sense of hyperarousal.
Mm.
So our body stays in what we call the sympathetic nervous system, which is kind of like go, 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 take in, stay fit. And when we allow ourselves to relax and have downtime, so maybe even play. So play was another ingredient as part of this brain platter, where you just, yeah, let your inner child come out. And the parents do this perhaps, but those of us that don't have young kids or pets, it's more difficult. And it's not actually time that you lose, because during those moments where you're getting bored or daydreaming or playing without an agenda, we know that the mind becomes more creative, you problem solve, you potentially integrate certain emotions. So when you do work and want to get things done, it might take less effort.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. And how do you play when you're not working? I will ask you on the work and play later, but I just want to be interested to find out, again, this is the joie de vivre. How do you play when you're not working?
I do several things. I try and do creative projects. Like at the moment, I'm building jigsaw puzzles.
Well, nice.
I
Speak to my
yeah,
mind.
I cook. I cook even if it's just for myself. I really enjoy spending time with food. I do salsa dancing, which is not exercise for me. So it's for me, it's about, you know, the rhythm, the connection with people. It's been hard because it's only virtual, but it's something.
Yeah.
How else do I play? I did an improvisation course
Oh,
last month.
nice. I love those.
That was really
Fun.
good to
Yeah.
play because you can't get it right or wrong and you have to just be playful.
Yes.
Yeah. And when
And
we can, I'm going to look at spending time with children. I really miss young child energy. That lockdown has brought that up for me.
yes, definitely. And I guess once we can finally go back to dancing again, we should definitely connect. I love salsa dancing. I
Ah,
think it's yeah, it's one of the things that after a long day and I just want to disconnect, I go for a bit of a dance, and there's nothing like like that for me. Obviously, yeah, I spoke a lot about tennis, but salsa dancing is definitely something we can do together.
yeah. And there's so many activities and choices out there. It really, I always say to people, stay curious, keep
Yeah.
asking questions, and you'll potentially find solutions that you didn't even know you needed or wanted.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And so, how about playing at work? This is really something that is core to me, and the messages I share with my audience. This idea is that work can be play, work can be fun. Of course, not everything that you do at work will be fun. As we talked about, happiness is not a constant, you're not happy all the time, but it's the same with work. There will be things that you like and things that you don't like doing my finances. But you know, so how do you bring this idea of play into your work?
Yeah, I think you're right. It's important to realize that we can't always do this. But I think it starts with definitely having pauses, because it's hard to notice if you're not playful or if you are stressed or if you don't even have the chance to become aware of how you are.
Yeah.
So if you can, in between meetings, even if it is for 10 seconds, just to check in with yourself. How am I in my mind? How am I in my heart? And how am I in my body? Like, how's my
Yeah.
body
Yeah.
feeling? Do I need to stretch and move and hydrate? And also have maybe visual cues. So to remind me to be playful, this was made by my 6-year-old neighbor before I moved
Yeah.
in lockdown. So it's a little
Ah.
elephant. And I keep him on my desk. And there are days where I forget he's there and I look across and I'm like, what would Kiko, you know, the 7-year-old do? So having visual cues can help. And if you feel that a task at work is taking you longer than usual, or if there's a bit of conflict, or if you're not in the zone or in flow, there's a lot of
Yeah.
research around the concept of flow, is change your perspective, move away from your computer, change your body, look at something further out the window, go step outside, come back in. And that change in perspective can sometimes help an emotional and mental change in perspective.
Yeah, definitely. And I agree with that. I think working in the state of flow is really, really important, especially for business leaders that have to do quite a lot of things as well. And I guess for me, one of the way I love being in flow as well is knowing what I'm when I work on something, how can I change the way I work that makes it a bit more fun for me as well. So looking at my work, if I'm doing social media, for example, which I some aspect of that I really don't enjoy. So I've changed some of the way I do my social media so that I feel like, okay, if you want me to record the video, I will do it my way. I'm gonna put boxing glove, I'm gonna have fun. So it's really about bringing my personality in my work, which I think it's also, at least it's important for me to be playful. Even if I'm going to be writing a report for a customer, I will find a way to create something in there that makes me interested and really connect with my work as well.
I love that. And you've reminded me of something else I do. I think some of these things become default, like we just do them, which is good, I guess.
Yes.
And the one thing I do is I often ask myself, how do I want to feel? Not what do I need to do?
Mm,
Because we're all going to get a lot done. We're high achievers. We've got checklists. We've got emails to answer. We've got proposals to write. We've got meetings to attend. How do you want to feel while you answer the email? How do you want to feel in that meeting? How do you want to feel when you're doing a social media video? I love that. And
Yes.
sometimes it's playful, sometimes it's focused, sometimes you need to have a boundary defining conversation. So you need to feel quite serious.
Yes.
But if you're not asking yourself those curious, conscious questions to start off with, you'll just end up falling through your days and draining your energy. And that's why we're seeing mental health issues and burnout, and people are not healthy. And we're nowhere near the finish line. I don't even know if we're near the beginning of the, the end of the beginning, according to some trends. So we have to look after ourselves. Have
Oh,
to.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I love that question as well. How do you feel? And this is really good, especially if you start feeling negative, to remind yourself of what you're feeling now, but how do you want to feel? And use that to be creative and use a lot of the techniques that Celine's been talking about in this conversation as well. One other
And
thing that, oh yes, go ahead, Celine.
now, I was just going to say, and
Yes, sure.
negative feelings are not bad. They're actually very
Yeah.
good information. So if you're feeling angry, pay attention. If you're
Wow.
feeling sad, like pay attention. Don't suppress it. What you suppress, your body will express,
Oh
and
yes.
often in bad ways. So processing emotions is key. That's why exercise helps, because it releases pent up emotion, and journaling and writing and having people you can trust and speak to. So don't feel bad if you're feeling bad, but
Yeah.
don't ignore it either, because you can't feel good and bad
Mm.
easily at the same time, and unless you acknowledge
Mhm.
all spectrums of emotion.
And it reminds me of something that you've said earlier in this conversation. Your body expresses, or your body will tell you something. So if you quiet down and you stay in that feeling, your body will find a way to tell you that there is something that you need to change. And listening and connecting will help you find out what you need to change in your life so that the feeling can also go away.
Yeah, and this may not be easy in the beginning, especially if you're listening to this and you're like, oh my goodness, I've never done this. I have no idea how many breath cycles I take. I don't have a gratitude journal. I don't know how to reflect on my day and wear boxing gloves and be happy and playful. It's okay. Like, start with one small thing. Like, the fact that you're listening to this, to me, means,
Mm.
that you're open and stay curious. Yeah, and don't take yourself too seriously. There's so much in life that's so serious.
Yes, definitely. And I would say, I would even add to that, don't take yourself too seriously at work as well. Of
Yeah.
course, we have to be professional, but there is a space for bringing a part of yourself at work that allows you to laugh and just be playful. And like you're showing us, put something on your desk to remind you if you need
Yeah.
to as well.
Yeah, because I think we sometimes forget, and we think that we are mental, intellectual beings that occasionally feel. But
Yes.
we aren't. We are emotional beings that occasionally think.
Yeah.
So at the workplace, it's so wonderful to see that we're now acknowledging this, that we can't leave our hearts and our emotions outside the door, outside the Teams or the Zoom room. Like, we arrive as a whole person.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's what's been, for me, one of the positive outcomes of COVID. The fact that we have worked from home, and we've had to speak about homeschooling and the challenges and pressures around remote working and coming back to the office and all the stresses from the global pandemic.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
And in fact, this is probably a story for in how to deal with emotions. I'm a software engineer by trade. You don't get taught to deal with emotions. So when I started my career, I worked my best. I was still efficient, but I believe that one of the things that was missing for me was emotion. I was doing experiments to see how far I could go in my life without showing any emotions, until I eventually started working with someone who says, you know what, maybe you need to learn how to be vulnerable and talk about the people. And that has been one of the biggest shifts in the second stages of my life after starting work. And I believe that it's made me also a better person. So for anyone out there that really struggle with emotion, as Celine was saying, of course, when we talk about this, it's not that we've been through some of those things as well. And we know that it's a journey and it's a process. So even when going through the process, it's still important to laugh and give yourself some slack, because the other person you get out in the other on the other side, you might not even notice when you get there, but you will definitely get there.
Mm. And I think as leaders, or even as parents and community members and friends and siblings, it was Maya Angelou who said,
Mhm.
people may forget what you told them, but they'll never forget how you made them feel.
Oh yes.
So think about how not just you feel, but how you make others around you feel.
Yes, definitely.
That helps me some mornings when I wake up and I'm tired and the last thing I feel like doing is work. And I think there's someone out there that needs to feel better. I can help that.
Definitely. And just to finish off as well, and then it's talking about this, how do we make other people feel as well, is I remember reading somewhere that you love champagne and you love to bring this effervescence style to leaders as well. So how can leaders stay effervescent as well, have that bubbly feeling into them, regardless of everything else that's going around?
Yeah, so my love of champagne comes from, my parents are from the Champagne region in France. So
Yeah.
ever since I was a baby, I've been, the champagne has been around. And I use champagne as a metaphor for well-being and for effervescence.
Yes.
So the one way to stay effervescent, well, actually not one way, all the different things we've spoken about is the small, like if you look at a glass of champagne, it's all the little bubbles. It's not one big bubble that makes it sparkling. So it's these small things that we do every day, the gratitude, the breathing, the self-awareness, the making time for our well-being, thinking of others, staying curious, tapping into our head set, heart set, body, lifestyle, staying playful. It's all these small things. And we don't have to do this 100% of the time, but 80% of the time, do what you can. And that helps. So I'm really passionate about bringing that sense of joie de vivre and celebration. That's also important. Champagne makes us think of celebration.
Yes.
So don't forget to celebrate, and not the big things. Don't wait for the milestones, the small moments in life, because life is fleeting, right? So when you notice a bird on the roof across the window, or a colleague said something good, celebrate those small things.
Yes, I agree. I think we always wait for the big things. It's all about celebrating even the small things as well. And I could speak to you all day, Celine. I've still got quite a lot of questions, and I'm sure that people watching would like to find out as well. And I found out about Celine by following her on social media, and I would definitely suggest that you do as well. There's a lot of great content, and I love your YouTube channel as well. It's full of great things about burnout, well-being, and so much more. But is there anything else that you are working on that you think people might be interesting to just kind of have a bit of a look?
Yes, I do. Yes, if you like my style and you like what I have to say around joie de vivre and curiosity and connection and celebration, there's an online community that I've started, and it's called the Wellbeing Clubhouse. So if you look up the wellbeingclubhouse.com, you can come along I run monthly masterclasses. You can also join the membership and have access to videos and other content, because alone is hard, but together is easier. And this well-being stuff isn't easy. Otherwise, we'd all be doing it. But together, we can help support each other.
Yeah. Definitely. So what is it called again? The Clubhouse?
The Wellbeing Clubhouse.
The Wellbeing Clubhouse. Okay. So I'll make sure that I have that in the show notes as well, so people to go and have a look. So we're just about to go, and I'm sure that most of the people watching this will probably already start either starting something else or thinking about the next step. Just to keep in mind with this idea of what is the 2-minute thing that you think people could be doing as soon as they finish watching this, just before they transition to something else. That will be the last starting advice to get them to practice and not just listen to the podcast and move on to the next one.
Wonderful. I'm all for immediate change. So I would suggest that right now you look away from your screen, or any screen, actually, not your phone, not a monitor, not a laptop, not an iPad. If you can, go look at nature. So go look outside a window, regardless of what the weather is, and just breathe for a minute. Take 10 or 15 deep, slow breaths, and something will come up or something won't. But that would have been a moment that you've given to yourself, and you've allowed your inner wisdom, your intuition, to get some attention.
Oh, that's beautiful.
And then celebrate it. Feel good as you go back to your screen.
Definitely. I'm definitely going to do that as well. I'm going to make myself accountable, get out of my screen and go out and just breathe. Thanks a lot, Celine. It was really wonderful. I've actually learned a few tricks that I'm going to be using as well. And definitely this 2 minutes and putting it through my day is one of the other things that I'm going to be doing as well.
Well, thank you for being such an amazing, happy role model, because you really are.
Thanks a lot, Celine. And please do follow Celine on social media. As I said, there's a lot of plenty of things out there. If you have any question, ask us and we'll be happy to give you even more content. Thank you.